Chapter 18. Lady at the Well. Do you believe in divorce? The host asked. I never really believed in divorce. However, I got swept up in the emotions of the world that we can divorce and remarry. Like the shampoo instructions, lather, rinse, and repeat. It is all a vicious cycle, and is condoned by many. When we have issues in our marriages, we will get more to agree to divorce and move on than those who say stay and fight. Fast and pray for your marriage. Yes, the ugly is going to come up and out, but you need that to move on and heal. Nana answered. I have been married 3 times and lived with a couple of guys. I was the lady at the well. I felt unloved, no matter how many times I fell in love. But come to find out, love is not an emotion, it is a choice, and I choose love these days. I remember when I first met Lonnie. We were in lust and would be wild and have fun, but soon, especially with mouths to feed, the lust turns into resentment. After having Alex, my tubes were tied. This was not my choice, but the decision of the doctor and Lonnie. I was no longer allowed to have children. I was hurt. I did not get a say so in the matter. I understand that we submit to our husbands. However, some decisions should be left up to God. Children are a blessing from the Lord, and cutting off the lineage of your family line should not be done without consulting with Him first. I wanted to be pregnant again. I liked the experience and even the big belly. After about 9 years of my tubal ligation, I got pregnant. This set me on fire. I was so excited and wanted to have another baby. However, Lonnie was not thrilled. He took off in his work truck and stayed away for a few days. Not even a call from him. I was home alone and worried because I was told that most pregnancies after a tubal are stuck in the fallopian tubes. I did not want to believe this. I wanted to have another baby, but my faith was in man and not in God. I went to the doctor and found out that the baby was in my tubes. This devastated me, and Lonnie was gone and had no clue this was happening. I was told the only thing to do was to take this chemical shot that would clear out my tubes. I had to do it alone. Soon, Lonnie came home and said he was okay with the pregnancy. We could make it work with another baby. It was at that time I told him the baby was no more. His face was of relief and mine was grief. These types of moments cause resentment in a marriage when God is not the center. I did not blame him, but I could not help but think if my tubes had been left alone, we would have had another baby. Elizabeth and Alex called him Speck. He was a speck of hope in our lives. After a few more years, Lonnie and I were done. We had fought so much that I was done with fighting. What was I fighting for? My heart was empty and growing hard, and I needed to get out of that relationship. We got a simple divorce and our lives went our separate ways. It bothers me that I did nothing else to save my marriage. I did not go to God with our marriage because I was never taught that. I was taught to move on, and I did. My second marriage lasted 1 year. We said we would hold off that long for anyone who had bets against us. Sounded like a marriage rooted in love, huh? All I knew were emotions, and love is not an emotion. It is a choice. I choose to love someone, no matter what the situation or their flaws. And we are to love our neighbors as ourselves, but hey, I had no love for myself, and that was evident. I was looking for love and only finding more heartaches. After the second failed marriage, I just was single. I wanted no man or commitment. I was working in bars, hanging out with married men, and just living a life full of perversions. At one point, I was living with a gay couple. One of them owned a taxi/limo company. On the days that I did not work, I helped him with dispatch. Their lifestyle, I thought, was normal in this day and age. However, it was just another thing the devil was trying to normalize in my life. Men would give me things. They have all my life. I blame that on the demonic stronghold I had that groomed me. Since I can remember, the night demon incubus would come on me and take over my dreams and my body. It was easily triggered and manifested by lifestyle. I could watch television shows that conjured up this demon in my sleep. I opened myself up to demons. This was never intentional. This was just from outside triggers that were normal in the secular world. Many television shows, movies, and songs can bring on this demon. Once I learned what it was and how to stop it, I asked God for strength and victory came. I had been given a car by a man who wanted to marry me. He was older and owned his own construction company. I just needed a car, so I felt obligated to say yes. I soon felt guilty and left him with a goodbye note. I have many moments in my life I am not proud of, but now I am not ashamed either. I realized we are all flawed and do many things because of our emotions and desperation. That is how the devil makes us feel, desperate. This car was the only possession I owned when I became homeless. I had family nearby, but I felt they only wanted me for what I could do for them, and that was to help them pay their bills. I opted to be homeless. However, my car needed a $400 car part, and I had no job or money to get it fixed, so I roamed the streets for a week or two until I called out to my dad. I talked my friend into coming back to Texas with me after my dad fixed my car. He was tossed on the streets as well. His boyfriend had kicked us both out because he had found a better deal with another guy. My friend decided to go with me, and we took off. Once I got to my parents, I overlooked the fact we had to sleep in their RV. Once they retired, they quit owning homes and only lived in their home that they could take wherever they wanted. I did not tell my dad my friend was gay, but my mom knew and said dad would not approve of him staying there all the time, and they had no room. I had gotten a job at a local strip club in town as a waitress. I would take my friend to town and drop him off and work while he hung out on the streets. One night, I just left him. I did not go pick him up, and he never showed back up. I heard later on he had gotten a job and was doing well. Again, not another proud moment, but God has redeemed me. I am not that person anymore. I soon left the stripper club and began working demolition after a hurricane came through and ripped up the area. It was fun. My dad even gave me a multi-tool that I could use on the job. It was a temporary job, but it cleared my head so I could make some decisions. At this time, my mother was having health issues. She was regressing in her physical and emotional state and becoming like a child. Sometimes she was just plain mean. She was becoming increasingly incoherent, and we felt as if she would die. We finally found a doctor who knew exactly what was wrong with her. She was toxic. Her liver had become overloaded and was not breaking down her medicines any longer. We had arranged for her to be picked up and taken to the facility where she would be monitored as they took her off her medicines. It was a week or so when Dad and I walked in, and she asked where she was and how she got there. She had become aggressive and fell out of her bed and was pretty beaten up. She claimed the nurse knocked her around, but we knew she was hallucinating. After they got her off the medicines, she came to her senses and was much better. She did not remember a large time frame as we told her stories of what she was doing. At one point, she was trying to beat me and my sister up with a cane. We knew she had no idea what she was doing, and we laughed when we told Mom. She had no recollection of that either. After the demolition job was over and Mom was better, I decided I needed a change. President Obama had upped the age limit for enlisting in the military, and I wanted to go. I had wanted to when I was 17. I was ready to enlist in the Navy. I had a great score and was going to leave for boot camp in the summer before I graduated. All I needed was my dad's permission. He said no. I ended up meeting Lonnie and getting married instead of pursuing a military career. This time I needed no one's permission, and my children were older. One was 19, the other on the brink of 17. I wanted to go active but was denied because my son was still 16, so I went to the Army Reserve. I went to the local Army center and met my recruiter, Jack, my future husband. He helped me enlist and tried hard to get me on active duty, but I was not allowed. I went into military intelligence and had a top-secret clearance. I was put into a local reserve unit. I began going to the unit before my entry. On the first day there, I was warned that this was the worst unit for communication, and boy, was that correct. I had no issues before I left for training, but after graduating, Jack and I got married. I have a soft spot for men who make me laugh, and he did just that. We began dating a couple of months after I joined. He was in for a military career, and I admired that. He and I kept it simple to keep him from getting in trouble. Before I graduated, he was at his next duty station, and I needed to get my transfer from my reserve unit. I started going to the new unit to which I was trying to get transferred. However, I was never transferred. The original unit would not do the paperwork, and the new unit wanted only those that could pass airborne school. So the first sergeant would not allow me in unless it was from the original unit. Soon, both units had deployed, and I had no place to go. I volunteered for deployment to Haiti and also tried to attach to my husband's unit when he deployed, but I was denied. Soon, I gave up and just fell by the wayside. I was told by a few other soldiers that the same thing was happening to them as well. We fell into the cracks of the system. I felt useless. I joined to make a difference, but instead was pushed out by the system. I gave up and decided to start college.